we talk about apologies for a second?
Sure.
I love that you chose this as your example and the way you're describing it. I love how you're saying, I didn't go into a huge explanation of why I did it or anything. More people should apologize that way. A lot of people, their instinct when they're apologizing is to revisit the problem and sort of make excuses or explain why they did the thing wrong. It's not effective. What is more effective is what you're describing, taking ownership and saying, look, I just messed up and I'm so sorry and I feel awful about it. And the most effective component of an apology is actually making a promise to change. If you say to your girlfriend, I realize I messed up here. I'm not going to do it again. Here's how I'm going to be different in the future, like a concrete plan. It's so compelling to hear that you've thought about that and then it's measurable because she can see in the future, do you actually live up to that promise? Do you follow through on this promise to never make the mistake again?
Is there a point where you can apologize too much?
We studied this. I ran some studies on this. We started by looking at frequency of apologies made during normal conversations. It's quite rare for someone to over-apologize, but it does seem like within one conversation, if you apologize more than twice, it starts to be more of a reminder of the bad thing that happened. Like you just keep revisiting it and it brings you back to the negativity rather than moving forward. We also studied apologies in a really large data set of parole hearings, like among people who had committed really serious crimes. And we looked at the types of apologies that they made during their parole hearings. And there it seems like you actually can't over-apologize. Like more is better. And again, the most effective component is making a promise to change in the future. When I get out, I'm going to be in AA. I'm going to live with my grandmother. Here's the job I'm going to do. Whatever the plan is, you're actually more likely to get out of jail.
And going into those difficult conversations, is there anything one needs to do to prepare? Because our lives are full of difficult conversations, and actually it's the avoidance of them that ends up messing up our lives the most. So when you think about difficult conversations that we all have to have, or with difficult people, do I have to prepare for that?
So this is very natural. Almost every person that you hear talk about communication tends to focus on difficult conversations. I'm going to suggest to you that that is a very narrow view of the conversational world, actually. And in fact, thinking about difficult conversations is a little bit of a misnomer. It's not like there are some conversations that are difficult and some that are easy. It's that in every conversation, there can be moments of difference where we use different language to mean the same thing, where we have an incongruence in our emotions, where we have a difference in motives. I want to give you advice, but you don't want to take it. Or something dips down to a difference in our identities. I'm American and you're a Brit. So anytime you encounter these little fleeting moments of difference in all of these different ways, and maybe there was an image here. Let me see. No, it's not here. It looks like layers. We talk about it like layers of the earth. And above the surface are the words and sounds that you hear while people are talking. Right at the surface are people's emotions. So I feel excited, but you feel tired and bored. That's going to be tough. Right below that are people's motives. What I want to achieve, it gets back to the compass. What I want to achieve is different than what you want to achieve. We're all walking around with a compass in our mind, and they're different from each other. Right below that are our beliefs, right? I believe that immigration is a problem, and you believe that AI is a way bigger problem than human immigration. How do we talk about that in a way? And then all of it dips down to the sort of hot magma in these layers of the earth model of our identities. So even an easy conversation, we're on a date, or two spouses are driving in a car, or friends are hanging out watching a movie. Like you can stumble upon these little moments of difficulty anytime for any reason, and you need to have the skill set to be able to make sure the temperature doesn't get too hot.
What is that skill set?
There's fabulous research on this. I have found it incredibly helpful in my life. Research by Julia Minson, Mike Yeomans, Hannah Collins, called receptiveness. So it's receptiveness to opposing viewpoints. And it's both the mindset. When someone comes to you with something that seems crazy, you don't judge it negatively. You have to fight the human instinct to think of it as like, that's crazy, that's wrong. And now I'm going to win. And now I'm going to be right and prove you wrong. Because all of those instincts ruin our conversations and our relationships.
Why?
It makes us defensive on the receiving end. It makes us sort of accusatory and hostile on the attack end. Once we get into an accusation and defense mode, the conversation is broken down. It's no longer about connection, savoring, protecting, and advancing. We're now in this new world that is not achieving any of our goals.
Just as someone comes to you and says something crazy, they say, the sky is purple.
Yeah.
It's not blue, it's purple.
Here's a magical phrase that you can say in that moment. It makes sense that you feel that the sky is purple. It makes sense that you feel excited to tell me that the sky is purple. It makes sense that you feel X about Y. It makes sense that you feel skeptical about podcasts. It makes sense that you feel annoyed that I speak quickly. It makes sense that you are worried about AI. Whatever people are feeling, whatever they express to you, we can validate that feeling because whatever's going on in their mind is their reality. And we have to say that out loud before we go on to do anything else, even if we're about to disagree with them vehemently. But we have to say the validation piece first, just like therapists do all the time, in order for them to feel heard and like, oh yeah, I'm safe here so that I can join you on your side of the table and now we're going to untangle this weird problem together. You say the sky is purple. Tell me more. Like how did you come to feel like the sky is purple? Are you colorblind? Do you see everything in purple? Like now I can ask you questions about how you came to that perspective and I can learn about it.
I guess the risk is you don't want to
validate something wrong?
Yeah.
Why not?
You don't want to appear to be saying, because if I say, it makes sense that you think the sky is purple, but it's actually blue.
The word thinks is important. It makes sense that you feel X about Y. Mm. Not it makes sense that you think X about Y. Thinking is like a cognition.
Is there risk of it sounding patronizing?
Maybe, but in practice, it feels really, really good. When I run this, so I run an exercise in my class where we go around, let's say there's a group of 5 students, and you have to share something. We start easy, like share one song you love. And then the next person has to validate that before they share their favorite next song. And you go around and around very quickly. And so it feels very contrived to say, okay, you have to say, I love that you love that Taylor Swift song. That's so interesting. I actually don't like Taylor Swift. It feels very contrived, but when you talk to the students after it, they say, yes, I knew what we were doing. It did feel over the top to say that about people's song preferences. And still, it felt amazing to have the person next to me say, I love that you love that Taylor Swift song. Validation, we are all so hungry for validation that even ridiculous validation feels amazing. So then when you get to round 2 and everybody's sharing something that they're really struggling with, and the person next to them says, wow, I'm so sorry, that sounds really, really hard. It makes sense that you feel upset about your mom. Now you've got that habit and you're making them feel quite good about something that actually does deserve that validation. So it's all about like developing these habits, no matter where the difference or disagreement is coming from.
What's the opposite of that?
The opposite is how people naturally tend to naturally respond, which is by trying to win and prove them wrong and prove that they're right. So you say the sky is purple, and I say, well, that's crazy. The sky's blue. And then where does our conversation go? It feels terrible for you.
It's so interesting. I learned this because I employed this person once, and this person, when we'd talk about ideas, the first word out of their mouth was always, I disagree, and then they'd make their point.
That's right.
And I don't know what it was about it, but I noticed that it would like get my back up.
Of course.
And so I'd say, I think we should do it like this. I disagree.
Yeah.
And then they'd make their point. And I remember thinking, gosh, that's such a...
And it's so ironic because their goal is to persuade you. Mm-hmm. At the end of it, they want you to agree with their position. That's not at all how persuasion works. The only way that we change our beliefs is usually across many conversations, and we're around someone we like talking to and respect and have admiration for, and then over time, we sort of bend to the gentle pressure of their differing viewpoint. If I say, I disagree, now let's fight about it, you get your back up and you're not enjoying talking to me, even if you're right. And right, like it's not about being right or wrong in that moment. The goal here is to keep the conversation in an emotional place where it can continue, so you can continue to engage. And that's what these researchers find in this receptiveness research is if you qualify your statement saying like, I wonder if the sky could be a different color, rather than the sky is blue with certainty. There are all of these sort of hedging language. You can divide yourself into multiple parts. So if you said to me the sky is purple, I would say, oh my gosh, as your friend and as a painter, that is so intriguing to me. As a biologist or as a meteorologist, maybe we should investigate that. Mm-hmm. Literally dividing yourself into two disagreeing parts. It's usually how we actually feel. So if your mother says something crazy to you, that seems crazy to you, you could say, as your daughter, I'm so intrigued that you've come to hold that perspective. I'd love to hear more. You know, as a representative of Gen Z, I know my friends would want me to say this. It means that you can hold two perspectives at once, and it is very helpful to the other person to keep the conversation going. But all of the elements of this receptiveness recipe have this flavor. It's a little surprising. I think often people think of these types of things as weakness because it's like our instinct is to try to win and be right. And instead, what I'm saying is, no, hedge your claims. Show that you're uncertain about stuff. Validate their feelings. Divide yourself into disagreeing parts because you're not certain about anything in order to keep the conversation going so that you have any shred of hope of persuading them over the longer term.
I remember Tali Sharot telling me about a study. Either she told me, she's a neuroscientist in London, and she told me they put two people in a brain imaging scanner and got them to like look at photos and come to agreement on the price of something.
Yes.
And then eventually in these studies, I'm super paraphrasing here. She's probably like cringing.
I think I know what study you're talking about.
Oh, could you explain it instead?
Yeah. So they studied what lights up in your brain when you're in a situation of disagreement versus agreement. And it is actually more taxing to your mind when someone is disagreeing with you. It's like these neurological alarm bells go off, and all of a sudden, like you described, what was your phrase? My back goes up?
My back goes up. I get my back up, yeah.
That's it. It's actually in your brain. Your brain goes up. And it's hard. It's very hard to continue to engage once that process is underway.
Yeah.
Right? Some people call it amygdala hijacking, which is not quite right. But your brain does look different when you're in a situation of disagreement. So whatever we can do conversationally to sort of tamp that down so that your back doesn't go up is going to be quite helpful.
She showed pictures of the brain in these scans when someone disagrees with you. And I think, and I might be getting this inverted, that it was almost like the brain had shut down to receptiveness.
Yes.
In that moment. It was like, so when I wrote this chapter in my book called Do Not Disagree, it's an intentionally provocative chapter because people think, what do you mean? Never disagree with anybody?
No,
but I mean,
right.
Don't make the first thing you say, I disagree.
That's right. It can come later.
100%.
It can come later, but first has to come like, oh, it's so intriguing that you said that. I'm so fascinated. And it makes sense that you might feel that way. I wonder if, and then you can go on instead of, I disagree.
I met a girl called Anne who always said, yes and instead of but.
Good.
And it shocked me because it was so different. Having a conversation with her, you say something to her and you go, I think this. And she goes, yes, and then she would make her point. And it could be a complete disagreement, but I noticed she was doing it and I loved it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we often think of the yes and as part of sort of improv, comedy, humor, et cetera. The comedians are really on to something much more profound about conversation broadly. If you can come from a sort of mindset or like spiritual place of yes and, essentially you're saying, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt here, even though what you're saying seems a little crazy. Mm-hmm. That's what is required to have great relationships. It's like we're all going to have these moments where someone feels something or says something that seems crazy, and if you react to it in an invalidating way, that's how we kill our relationships.
Do we need to kill the word but? Because what ends up happening is someone will say, the thing you just said about validating relationships, yes, I completely understand. I think you made a great point, Alison, but, and the minute I say but, it's kind of like I've just taken an eraser to everything you just said.
I would love to get rid of the word but. Not but with two T's, but with one T, yes. Yeah, you never need it. You can make the same point and say and.
But... like it just completely, it immediately says.
It also reveals that you're sitting there in a state of, I can't wait. I'm like, on the tip of my tongue is something I can't wait to say that's opposite of what you're saying.